Loki, episode 3 recap. Trying to keep it even more brief. Failed at that last week. Still basically did 20 minutes. I did 15 minutes. But I don't know. I'm trying to think of things that are standing out to me maybe thematically in this series, how it's grabbing me in other ways. Are the character, in terms of character and plot, and how it's, but it's really just either it's action packed or it's very story driven. No, character driven, I guess. But finally, I think episode 3. We're at the midpoint now. It's been a kind of combination of both. This week I thought was fun because of actually seeing and almost being like reminded for a second. You don't forget that Loki, and in this case now Lokis, are very skilled in hand-to-hand combat and other forms of kicking ass, which we see a lot of in this episode, which is fun to watch. But then also having the two Lokis get to know each other is interesting. It's also interesting because I'm wondering, this show has a way of making you wonder what's real and what's not, who's telling the truth and who's not. There were a couple times where, like, is this Loki person, is this Lady Loki even a Loki at all, or is it someone posing as because she has this way about it. She keeps saying, don't call me Loki, don't call me Loki. That's not who I am anymore. My name's Sylvie. Yeah, I mean, the spoiler filled, but it's really just one big one at the end. Every week's kind of, I like how every week has kind of revealed something else, right? Episode 1 is like, okay, the variant they're after is a Loki. Okay, whoa. Episode 2, we see who that Loki is, Lady Loki. Okay, whoa. And then this week, there was something that, like, totally does the switcheroo, like I thought they would, But before any of that, it's important to point out that sometimes I have a hard time feeling like this Loki is the Loki from 2012's Avengers anymore. It seems like that shift was very quick. So I'm hoping the series kind of pays that off in reminding us this is not the Loki we last saw in Infinity War. This is still a guy who will stab anyone in the back for his glorious purpose, kind of thing. I know that he has grown throughout the series, almost as he's been forced to grow quicker than ever than his sacred timeline self did. His sacred timeline self. I love the quotes, the air quotes. His sacred timeline self. It took a longer time to develop. We saw it slowly over a period of storylines, but this one is about, for once, he's the hero or the protagonist of a story. So development of his character, it allows for it to happen a little bit quicker and to spend more time with, because we're spending so much more time with him, it does still feel believable that he would shift. Because I think deep down Loki was always the person we saw him as in Infinity War. It just, he hides it underneath all this other shit that he thinks he has to appear as. And I think this episode is also good for highlighting the differing perspectives between Lokis. Because assuming that she is full-blown a Loki, you never know with what Marvel's going to do. They're the same person while being completely different. I think that was the point of this in terms of character, in terms of story, is that these two people are not the same person even though they're the same person, if that makes any sense. They are two different people with different perspectives. And I think that it also shows the different paths in terms of morality that Loki could have went down. All the things that happened to Lady Loki could have just as easily happened to the Loki we've known. And, events shape people, change people. And I think that was really cool to see that they literally spend time talking about each other to each other and the differences that go along with it, how they're different from each other. And they are very different from each other. But I think personality-wise, it's been fun because they're almost like a brother and sister thing. Because personality-wise, they have a lot in common because they're technically the same person in that regard, right? And so the episode was actually really, really... It was probably the more thought-provoking one we've had of the three so far. People have been giving Loki a lot of, I guess Marvel in general, a lot of shit for this whole thing. Their approach to tone, and I don't know why this would now be a fucking problem. This is their tone all the fucking time. But like this idea that they cover up really thought-provoking themes or dramatic moments, they blanket sweep it with comedy. But I believe that's kind of what they always do. I guess the idea is it going to be the death of them? Is it going to be something that starts to hurt Marvel if they can't learn to grow and adapt? I think we have stories coming that will help in that regard. We have darker toned stories that, as long as they know that they have to shift, make a shift, change things up, that they'll be okay, and because they do have to adapt. The whole switch to TV can't just be let's do all the same stuff but on TV. They do have to change. They do have to kind of keep things feeling fresh for audiences. We don't want to be bogged down by the same thing for 3 decades. Fucking 12 phases later, by the fucking 6th phase, we'll start to feel the fatigue everyone was always talking about. With that being said, I don't at all feel like I'm not empathizing with Loki as a character and really feeling those dramatic moments. It's just that Loki seems to have taken quite a comedic turn in this series. Everything is funny. I'm laughing a lot, but it's like we don't let the deep moments kind of breathe, as much. We've had one moment like that thus far, and that's when he sees his mother's death and really takes that in. But I think it's still I'm still really psyched to see where we go from here, and then they actually nodded to Loki's sexuality in this episode very quickly. That you might have it was like blink and you'll miss it kind of thing, but I guess he's canonically, is that how you say the word, bisexual, because he mentions it like quick, like how he's had both prince and princesses at his to please him, or have pleased him in the past. It was quick, but it's just like it's kind of fitting of his character. Like if you would have told me that 6 years ago in another movie or what, I could see that. Is it as big a fucking thing as like the fucking? Does it have to be this thing? Like it's. I think that people's race, sexuality, all these things, they should feel natural, like how it was natural in this episode. It's all the aftershock of it that makes it into some big thing. Like everyone fucking going crazy about it on in the media and online and stuff. Yeah, he's bisexual. That's cool. I mean, that's what more does I don't know what do we. Actually, it's also the timing is fitting, right? Isn't it? LBGT. I'm fucking that up. LGBTQ Pride Month, right? I'm probably close on that. Don't think that I don't care about that community either. I 100% do. 100% love all of you, okay, in that community. So sorry for fucking it up. If I did. And so there was that. That was just something that was brought up, so I thought I have to bring it up here. And then so it was the pacing of it I really liked. We had these character moments breaking up the action really kind of very smoothly. So we got a mix of both, and it was just a fun episode all the way to the end. The end did feel abrupt. It felt very abrupt the way this episode ended. But they didn't end without, of course, throwing us something to cling to. They threw us something. So the twist this week was that we get this opening scene where Lady Loki, or Sylvie, I guess we can start calling her by how she wants to be called. That's her name. Sylvie is trying to gain information from one of the TVA agents, and we see how she does it. And then she reveals that she had to really try hard with that person in order to do it, including going back into one of her memories from the past, from her past, from 100 years, too, by the way. I don't know how that's... time works differently in the TVA, because when we see this moment, this memory of hers, of the agents, it doesn't seem like 100 years ago. It's fucking... seems pretty modern day. But it means that in the TVA, 100 years could pass in there, but in real time, it's like what? I don't know. A couple of years? That's interesting, because there's been a theory circulating that the TVA actually exists inside the quantum realm. From Ant-Man and the Wasp, from Ant-Man, from the Endgame, how they use time travel in Endgame. The quantum realm, we already know time works differently in there. Scott Lang Ant-Man was stuck in the quantum realm for 5 years on our time, regular time, but it was only 5 hours for him. So there's a possible answer to how the TVA's time works. Maybe it does. Maybe it's a space inside the quantum realm. We'll find out, I'm sure, in due time. But basically what Sylvie reveals is that this person had a life before the TVA, which is shocking to Loki because, of course, he was told that the TVA, everything in the TVA was created by the Timekeepers, including the people that work for it. It's not true. At least according to Sylvie, it's not true. No, of course not. They're variants just like us. That means there have been multiple variants throughout history that the Timekeepers have decided to keep around. Fuck with their memories, I guess, and then use them as agents and give them purpose and motivation in the TVA to work for the TVA. In basic terms, it's like they're slaves to the TVA. Because they have no idea, as it shocks Loki to learn, they have no idea that this is happening to them. What does that mean? Does that mean that agent lost 10 years of her life in the TVA? So they're going to play with that theme, too, and how the TVA is treating people. Forget about how time is treated. How are you treating people? I always called this twist being a potential thing. And we'll see if they play this out. But yeah, fun episode. I thought that was actually the best recap of it that I've had so far, because that's where I'm ending it right there. Pretty cool. I can't wait to see where the second half, if this was like a, setup half, right? We're at the midpoint. See what the confrontation and resolution of this is in the second half. So as always, come back for more next week.